Girlfriend, we need to talk. Conversations with outstanding women.
Hello, welcome back. It's Girlfriend, We Need to Talk in video. We're doing a series with wonderful Cindy Wahler from Toronto. Hello, Cindy.
Nice to see you again, Leana. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, and we learn so much when you come on. So we've been doing this series of short little episodes to talk about some of the challenges with leadership and managing people and just coping even from a personal level, which is something that I want to talk about with you today with our current situation with COVID and the challenges that we're facing, many challenges that we're facing with that. But one of the things I would like to dig into, because I know that you're not just a leadership expert, but you're also an expert in human behavior. So what do we do? I know that some people are coping better than others. And I'm wondering if you can give us some tips on ways to try and help cope with the situation of working from home, first of all, and then we'll talk about those who aren't working at all right now. But let's talk about folks working from home.
Your very first point is terrific and is very articulate in terms of what's going on. So everybody copes differently, and everybody is coping in different ways, as well as some better and some less so than others. And so in terms of work and home, now the lines are blurred. So you have employees who are having challenges dividing up the home and work boundaries. And as well, we don't have built-in distractions like stopping, going for coffee, chatting around the water cooler, commiserating with your colleagues next door, next office. And so we need to think about what measures are you proactively putting in place for self-care, because you will be diminished around your productivity, accuracy, the value you bring both to your work and your family and yourself if you're not doing these things. Right. And so what I would recommend for some people, they do have a built-in kind of cadence where they are taking breaks to play their guitar, do photography, paint the next great oil painting. Others are less disciplined, and I would strongly recommend that those individuals reach out and create a buddy system where they have somebody in their life where you're mutually looking out for each other, where you're having a daily call or where you're having a weekly call, whatever it might be, checking in on how are you doing and just talking about other things other than work to keep you from being totally consumed with work. And so we can build those measures in that are actually helpful and supportive.
Oh, I love the buddy approach. That's a really great idea. That's excellent. Definitely. Something that I have found is, and that shutting it off is a really, really tough part because you can easily get sucked in. And when you say that we don't have the distractions of the water cooler discussions or going for lunch with one of our coworkers, etc., this thing can be a blessing and a curse, because I find that I have caught myself doing this, and for my own purposes, because again, we all cope differently, I have to try and not go on here. I'll have days where I'll get sucked into it. So you'll be between projects, or even just see it sitting there, and you'll get a text message, you open it up, and then you end up on Facebook or somewhere, and it's all disastrous. For lack of a better word.
You are right. I think there are a few elements to it. One is that if we are focused too much on the media and the news around COVID, around the pandemic, it is extremely stressful because there are disturbing events that occur every day around losses, around illness, around more cases. And so that wears us down. So I am recommending that although it's important to stay knowledgeable and current, it may be something where you really restrict how much you're paying attention to the news and not looking at it even daily or multiple times a day, because things aren't changing rapidly per day. They're changing over time as we're flattening the curve and as we are thankfully reducing the number of deaths. And so that is a way to put boundaries around your screen time. And I think also that we need to be disciplined around what other forms of activities can you engage in, whether it is reading or recreational pursuits, because you really need to step back. And when I talk to some of my clients, I'll ask them, the hours that you're putting in, is this due to your manager expects that, or is this self-imposed?
Yeah.
What's shocking to me is that the majority of the time, the answer is it's self-imposed. And the motivation varies from, this is my time to shine. I'm going to really showcase my stamina, my ambition, my talent, so that I can position myself for a promotion. Or I just feel that work never ends and I need to get things done, and that's my work ethic. So on the first point, I don't think managers are looking to you in this time period to do extraordinary heavy lifting. They are expecting you to really manage some of the daily pressures and also to take care of yourself. And so it is about feeling confident in yourself that if you were valued pre-COVID, you will continue to be valued post-COVID. Nothing will change, and you don't have to do anything special or out of the ordinary, but to really take care of yourself in between the spurts of work that you're doing.
Oh, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. And then the second bullet that you had was the ones who just feel like it just never ends. Right.
So I think that's true. And so it does never end. And it's a losing battle. So it is human nature to control our world. And so we control our world by wanting to get to the bottom of the pile or to the last email. We know there's no such thing as the last text, the last correspondence. It'll keep going. And as a matter of fact, the more you respond, the more you fuel potentially that sender. So it is about recognizing and accepting you can't control the influx of information. What you can control is how often, how much, when you're responding. And so that's one thing to do. Also, you should be setting the stage for others, whether it's your family members, whether you're a role model for that, whether it is a screen-free family time, or whether you are the manager of employees. Are you sending emails out at 3 a.m, but also saying that, take care of yourself so that you ensure you're not giving a mixed message? And so we need to role play and model the values for our family that with behaviors that are aligned with these values around being well-rounded, around taking care of yourself, around that kind of replenishing your energy.
That's a really good point. And I think that I could be wrong on this, but I think sometimes for those folks who are alone, literally alone in their social isolation and don't live with someone, it can almost become a kind of coping mechanism to continue to work constantly and not have any interruption. But is it a positive one?
It's a great point. And in one of your other podcasts, you made a terrific mention of that perhaps we can use this time as a gift to discover things about ourselves, of our passions, our interests. And so rather than working, because there are so many multitude of opportunities out there, what you can learn, whether it's new skills, whether it's other kinds of creative pursuits, this is your time, because most people who work hard lament the fact that they're working too hard and don't have time. Well, I would challenge that, because in fact, this is a golden opportunity to have time to do other things. And perhaps you will discover things that you never thought that you would enjoy or that would challenge you, and then allow you to be even more well-rounded and a more engaged and more interesting person, because you have other topics to add to the conversation when you're with people, when you're socializing, when you're meeting others.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm going to mention something that has been helpful to me, because I am currently furloughed from my day job. And I had a brief period where my days would just consist of getting nothing done. And the more that I would get into that role, you tend to kind of, it snowballs and you start to think too much or about the bad stuff. You find yourself reading stuff online. You find yourself in this place. And something that I found helpful, and I think it's actually been proven, is that if you make a list, like still schedule. I'm not even a schedule kind of person, but I have discovered over time that it's really helpful for me the night before. I make a list of the things I want to accomplish the next day. And if they're on that, I'll do them. But if they're not, then my whole day can be shot in no time. And I'm talking about, read 6 chapters of your book, or do some stretching, or whatever it may be. And if you're in a geographical area where they're discouraging you from going out and walking or going to parks, etc., I mean, I'm dusting off the
No, I think that's an excellent idea. And what you're suggesting, Leana, is put a discipline and a framework around you and stick to that, because then you can feel a sense of accomplishment. You can tick off each item on the list. So for myself, I've been going on the treadmill daily. There's nothing about it that's attractive. I do not enjoy it, one moment of it. And I dread going, and I stall all day, but I do force myself, and I have to admit, after I've done it, there is a sense of accomplishment, and I've changed my headspace now, and whatever was looping around in my head is usually gone, or I've minimized it, or I found a solution to address it, and I feel replenished from that. So you're right, by sticking to some type of agenda allows us to feel putting boundaries and a sense of accomplishment for sure.
Right. So there are some positive aspects, obviously, of technology, and I think we're displaying that right now, in that we're able to do this, and a lot of people are connecting with their loved ones through Zoom or Skype or whatever it may be. So that's something that's important as well, correct?
Absolutely. They are ways of connecting and socializing that we are discovering, and that this is an opportunity. And what's great about it is that for those who have integrated this as part of their lifestyle, then once we return to work, if these are things that you value and are meaningful to you, then you will keep that, and you'll have the momentum, and you'll see that in fact you do have time because it's important to you, and it is something that is pleasurable, and that is something that's fulfilling.
Thoughts on reaching out to folks to see how they're doing?
So I think it's critical. I think for those people, in one of our podcasts, we talked about introverts and how introverts don't necessarily seek out social connections. Having said that, there is a sense of monotony, tediousness, boredom, and routine. Even introverts are talking about and complaining about. So I think it is incumbent upon us just to check in, ask how people are doing, how they're feeling, and it is that human connection that we all need. So I think it's important to do it, and if it's not happening and you don't necessarily do it regularly, then ask somebody in your universe to put it on their list and their agenda to reach out to you.
Perfect. What about the kitchen? Do we talk about the kitchen? I keep seeing all this stuff about people saying, oh, we're all going to come out of this 20 pounds heavier. And
well, I think that absolutely is a risk factor. And, there are lots of jokes and cartoons about that, for sure, that for some people they are being teased, they won't be recognizable. And you're right. I mean, that is a casualty. I'm not going to say it's not, whether it's boredom, whether it's a chance to experiment now with cooking and creativity. I mean, there was a run on flour for a number of weeks where people were found a passion for baking bread, of all things. And so, yes, that is there. And, there is some downside around this that is the reality of it. So right. Sure.
Yeah. Well, and that treadmill and making yourself get up and move is definitely going to help with that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other tips that you'd like to throw at us before we move on and come back in a few days?
I think that just basically the importance is to ask yourself at each and every day, the end of the day, what have I done for myself? Don't look at it as a selfish question, but look at it as one for your own personal, emotional, physical hygiene.
Good thought. I love that. That's a perfect way to end it. It's not being selfish, because that's a mindset that a lot of us get stuck in. So good for you. That's perfect. Well, thank you so much. It's an important topic, and we'll come back in a few days and we'll talk about something else that'll be helpful to folks. So keep the faith all. And how can people find you, Cindy?
On my website, cindywahler.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, as well as my Twitter handle @Cindy Wahler. Thank you.
Perfect. Leana. You're welcome. And you can check out the podcast at girlfriendweneedtotalk.com. See you next time.
Bye now.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, leave a review on your favorite podcast platform and check out our website at girlfriendweneedtotalk.com. You can also email me, Leana Dell, directly at gfweneedtotalk@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.